Least restrictive environment, LRE, what you need to know. Here's a website from understood.org. It says, least restrictive environment, also known as LRE, isn't a place. It's a principle that guides your child's educational program. Special education law says your child should be learning with his peers. When least restrictive environment comes up, so do the words mainstreaming and inclusion. Let's get into it here. When your child's individualized education program meets, then the team meets, it talks about many things. That includes your child's areas of strength, areas of weakness, and present levels of performance, like how they're doing in reading and math and social skills. The team and behavior. The team also talks about the least restrictive environment, or the LRE, for your child's education. The word environment makes LRE sound like a place, but it actually is more about your child's educational program. Where your child learns is only one piece of the program. So that's a good way of looking at it. So you're not just dumping a kid into an environment. You're thinking about what is the appropriate, not only the place, but what they'll need in that place to be successful and be included. Least restrictive environment is part of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA. IDEA says that children who receive special education should learn in the least restrictive environment. This means they should spend as much time as possible with peers who do not receive special education. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act says two things about least restrictive environment that are important to understand when working with the individual education program team. Your child should be with kids in general education to the maximum extent that is appropriate. And also, special classes, separate schools, or removal from the general education class should only happen when your child's learning or attention issue, his disability under IDEA, is so severe that supplementary aids and services can't provide him with an appropriate education. The key word here is appropriate. It refers to what's suitable or right for your child. Sometimes putting a child in a general education classroom isn't suitable because of specific service or program that can't be provided there. Mainstreaming and inclusion. So again, these two words kind of, I don't think they're really interchangeable, so let's see what they say about them. When least restrictive environment comes up, so do the words mainstreaming and inclusion. Many people think these terms mean the same thing, but they're slightly different. Good, very good. Let's keep going with that. A mainstream classroom is a general education classroom. Mainstreaming means putting your child with special education needs in the general education classroom for some or most of the day. Your child may also have some instruction in a special education classroom. And then let's read this purple part. It says, the intent of least restrictive environment is to make sure that kids who receive special education are included in the general education classroom as often as possible. So the details are outlined in the individual education program based on your child's needs. Keep in mind that the word mainstreaming is being used less and less by schools. An inclusion classroom is a general education classroom that has students who receive special education. Inclusion is a teaching approach that focuses on including students with special education needs in the school community. Inclusion goes beyond placement in a general education class. It also aims to have the child participate in the classroom lessons and extracurricular activities. Excellent. Because it's not just about in the class, it's about the whole experience of the school day, inside and out, and the supports that they're receiving to feel included. Different types of least restrictive environment. The basic idea of least restrictive environment is straightforward. Still, it's often a hot button issue at meetings. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act doesn't spell out the least restrictive environment for each type of disability. It can be open to interpretation. There isn't necessarily one right environment for all kids, and at times it may better or more suitably, or may be better or more suitable for a child to learn separately. The intent of least restrictive environment is to make sure that kids who receive special education are included in the general education classroom as often as possible, but agreeing on how that happens isn't always easy. The IEP team, which includes you, decides what the least restrictive environment is for your child. Here are some common least restrictive environment scenarios. General education classroom with support, in which your child spends the entire day in a general ed class. He receives support and services like a tutor or aide. He gets assistive technology, related services, accommodations, modifications, or other combination of these. Or you could do a partial mainstream inclusion classroom. What does that mean? Your child spends part of the day in a general ed class. He gets some individual or small group instruction in a special ed class, or is pulled out of class for some services. Okay, maybe they have some reading tutoring separate, or some math tutoring separate, or a social skills lesson separate. Another model is special education class. This is a program with specialized instruction for kids with similar learning needs. So just like a different classroom altogether. That doesn't sound like kind of like an inclusion model to me. Specialized, and then the final, what they list is the specialized program outside of your school district. This includes private schools, residential programs, and hospital programs. Okay. Understanding what least restrictive environment means can help you get the best experience for your child at school. To learn more, explore tips for developing annual IEP goals. You may also want to take a look at possible accommodations your child can get in the education classrooms. So here's the three key takeaways that they list. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act leaves least restrictive environment open to interpretation. Okay, so you're going to have a real conversation about it with your team. For parents and teachers and social worker get together, have their IEP, their individual education program annual team meeting, and you get together and talk about the least restrictive environment. Is it making sense where my student is? That needs to be a real conversation. It can't just be like a 30-second or a 15-second assumption. It needs to be a conversation. There are several ways to make sure kids who receive special education are learning with their general education peers. And finally, as a member of the IEP team, you'll be involved in figuring out your child's least restrictive environment. So get involved and make sure that there's a real conversation. Is my child in the least restrictive environment that they can possibly be in? Because you probably want them to be included as much as possible in the things that the typical kids get to be included in, whether it's the things that they're being taught in the classrooms, the extracurricular activities, the social opportunities, the expertise of the full range of the staff in the school, and so on. So if you like this, give it a like. If you want more videos like this, hit the subscribe button. Leave your comments down below. What do you think about least restrictive environment? If you're a teacher, is it something that you have real conversations about in IEP meetings? Or if you're a general ed teacher, is it something that is problematic in your opinion? Let me know your thoughts. If you're in support of it, let me know your thoughts, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.